All right, so here's my presentation on the decline of shopping malls in the United States. I'm Mitchell Sefton. Maybe. There we go. And so, really, the contradiction that we're living in right now is we are a nation that is so heavily powered by consumption. About 70% of our GDP is driven by consumption, and yet we're leaving shopping malls, which were once seen as beacons of American consumerism, to rot as a relic of the past. Just to give you an idea, there's been an average of a 16.7% decline of malls per year in the United States from 2017 to 2022. And Cincinnati in particular is also no stranger to the issue. You have Forest Fair Mall, you have Tri-County Mall, you have Tower Place Mall, all of which are dead. And you also have Northgate and Eastgate, which are dying. So Cincinnati is a perfect example of the issue that is plaguing shopping malls today. And so the fundamental issue, or I should say the fundamental challenge for local officials, is what exactly do we do with these rotting structures now that this is happening? And as I've already touched on, this is going to be directed toward local officials because they're the ones responsible for fixing the issue. Why is it an issue? There are plenty of reasons, but these are the most obvious ones. You have blight, which is taking place, major tax base erosion. There's a major opportunity cost with these structures just sitting there rather than the properties being used for something that could serve society today. And there's also a social fabric deterioration, a major social fabric deterioration, I should say, that is taking place as these places were once major social hubs of many communities across American suburbia. So this presentation will focus on the origins of mall design, the factors leading to the downfall of shopping malls across the country, and also solutions for the issue. By the way, this is a picture of Rolling Acres Mall in Akron, Ohio, which is now torn down. You can just see the issue firsthand right there. So let's start off with the invention. This is told by Catherine Mommy. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. Sorry if that's not quite right, but her name's there. In 1943, the guy pictured right here, Victor Gruen, was tasked with an agency along with a few other people he was working with. Okay, what will shopping look like in America once the war is over? And they came up with the idea of the shopping mall, which, surprise, is what the presentation is about. And these places were solutions to the inconvenient shopping centers of the time. And these places were not just for shopping, but they were also designed to be major community centers as well. So not just shops, but also post offices, doctor's offices, grocery stores, etc., places that are really built to serve the communities that they're built in. The idea really came to fruition in the 1950s as the seeds were laid perfectly for shopping malls to really take off. 1950s, you had a sprawling American suburbia, which was also aided by the creation of the American highway system in 1956. So the conditions for shopping malls to really take off were just perfect. In 1954, Gruen's first design, or one of his first designs, I should say, of the Northland Shopping Center, was built in Detroit, Michigan. It's pictured right there. And it was the first of four in Detroit and the first of many across America. And if you're curious, the shopping mall closed in 2015. So the 1950s and 1990s were really the heyday for retail in the United States. You had rapid construction of shopping centers all across the country, malls of which are a group in the shopping center as a whole. And according to Feinberg and Malloy, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, by 1987, there were over 30,000 shopping centers across the United States, compared to just 4,500 in 1960. So you can just see the major boom taking place with the construction of shopping centers. And over half of all retail sales in the United States were from these shopping centers. These places established themselves as major social circles of communities, gathering centers, places for major events, really cemented themselves as important and vital for communities across American suburbia. However, with booms come busts. And so major cracks began to form, leading to the downfall due to all this overconstruction. Which leads us right into issue, or factor one in the downfall, I should say, which was overconstruction. For example, in the 1980s, there was a 10% growth in population in the United States, but yet a 50% growth in leasable area and shopping centers. So you can just see that the supply of retail is greatly outpacing the demand during this time period. And obviously, this leads to over competition where malls end up devouring each other, right? If you have three malls that are really close to each other that are competing with one another, they're going to be competing very vigorously for people to come in and buy their stuff. And so instead of having one full shopping mall, you have three half empty, two-thirds empty malls because not all three of them can, sustain the business in the area. Cincinnati, for example, is a very major offender of this issue. In the late 1980s, you had Forest Fair Mall, which is dead, Tri-County Mall, which is dead, Northgate Mall, which is dying, Eastgate Mall, which is dying, Kenwood, which is actually still thriving, Florence Mall, which is dying, Tower Place Mall downtown, dead, Swifton Commons, dead, Norwood Plaza, also dead. And just to illustrate the problem, Forest Fair Mall, Tri-County Mall, and Northgate Mall are all about 20 minutes from each other on I-275. You really think you need three malls that close to each other on I-275, especially in Cincinnati, which is not a major, I mean, it's not a small city, but it's not that big. So you can really see the issue at hand here as these malls are just devouring each other up. Another major issue, and this could arguably be even a bigger reason why malls have collapsed in the United States, is that more convenient means of shopping have sprung up. So you had strip malls are being built across the country, and this is also from Nora Barnes' article, by the way, another primary source of mine. You have factory outlet centers that are being reconstructed or constructed, I should say. You have downtowns that are being revitalized across the United States. And this is probably the biggest reason, which is the emergence of e-commerce in the United States as a whole, right? If I can go on Amazon and buy the good I want in 5 seconds and it's at my door the next day, that is so much less of a headache than having to drive to a massive shopping center, park in a very crowded parking lot, which is, of course, really far away from the entrance of the shopping center, walk into the shopping center, fight crowds to get to the place you want to get to, buy the product, and then come back home. It is so much less of a headache, and it makes sense why, due to this consumer sentiment, that shopping malls really went on the downhill, and Amazon was really able to spring up, I should say, and gather a lot of that business. Okay, so what are our options here for, I guess, fixing this issue? Option one is to just bulldoze them entirely, right? Replace these dilapidated buildings with structures that actually serve society today rather than just sitting there. Take Forest Fair Mall, for example. I know we've already mentioned it 5,000 times. Is a structure like this that is rotting and boarded up really doing anything for society today? I mean, the obvious answer is no. There's no point in it just sitting there. That's why there are plans put in place that have not gone through yet, but this is just an idea of replacing this structure with a major corporate headquarters instead of just sitting there taking up space, not being used for anything. As a much better, or I guess I should say, much more beneficial purpose, or I guess a much more beneficial thing for society today. Option two is just to repurpose the properties. All right, not completely tear them down, but just repurpose them for something that could be used for society today. In Turkey, for example, according to this primary source from Fatih, Riza, and Sophie Mozami, a mall in some downtown area of Turkey, I don't know what city exactly it was in, was transitioned into a university medical center. And of course, these are very large buildings, so you have plenty of options at your disposal for repurposing them. You could also convert them into places with mixed-use development, such as restaurants, shops, apartments, etc. And this would ensure that there is constant foot traffic and utilization of the properties, and there's also a built-in customer base for businesses as well, right? Because if people are living there, they can easily walk to the businesses and buy stuff. If you even want to be more, well, actually, I should say an example of this is Arcade Mall in Rhode Island, right here, which has been shown to be converted into, or I should say, part of it has been reconverted into small apartments. And these are tiny apartments, but people are living there and moving in there. So it's serving its purpose and doing well. If you really wanted to go bold, another option, for example, of course, this would cost a lot of money, but it would be a lot better than just having the structure sit there. You could make a giant entertainment palace if you wanted to, for example, right? You could put a casino in there. You could put a concert hall in there as well. You could put restaurants and a hotel in there. You could create this like entirely self-sustaining ecosystem that would actually make money rather than just being used for a purpose that will no longer be lucrative to business as a whole. Of course, that's a lot bolder of an option. I'm not expecting local officials to go through with that third option there, especially. But if you really wanted to be bold, that is another option to consider, better than what's going on right now. So overall, in conclusion, the reality of the situation is malls are never going to go back to what they once were, okay? The more efficient methods, regardless if it's a production process or shopping or et cetera, the more efficient methods will always take over and replace the less efficient ones. And malls are no exception. And it is a waste of money to continue to try to build more malls and maintain ones that are dying when that money could be used for something that's more beneficial for society today. However, by transforming these spaces or destroying them entirely ensures that the land that they are sitting on or the properties themselves are being used and repurposed in a way that can greatly benefit society in a 21st century as a whole. With that being said, here's my works cited right here, and that is it. Thank you for listening.